Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Hey guys, MC from MC Anime Podcast. Today we're back with another guest and featured speaker, Chemi. How you doing, Chemi?
Hi, Mick. I'm doing good today. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Can't complain. Just got back from OTS tournament. It was lots of fun, and it was interesting.
Oh, congratulations.
So, but yeah, what you been doing, and we'll go from there.
Excuse me?
What you been doing?
I've been watching new animes recently.
Like what?
Konosuba, Zom 100, Dr. Stone. That's pretty much it so far.
So we can still call you Normie. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alright, so without further ado, today is going to be another episode about Funimation merging with Crunchyroll. What does that mean? How does it look like? And what's the plan of action for the future? So, this has been a long process of Funimation trying to merge with Crunchyroll, but it finally just finalized. What's your thoughts about that?
I had a Crunchyroll account for a while, and there were some Funimation shows I did watch off of Crunchyroll. Two good examples I could think of would be Mob Psycho 100 and My Hero Academia are two big ones from Funimation. Kind of sad to see them go, you know?
True. So then you want to know that the merger was actually a part of a move of unification under the Crunchyroll name. So a couple years ago, Sony had the acquisition of Crunchyroll from AT&T. The merger was first announced in December 2020. Sony Pictures wanted the joint venture with Sony Music, which is the basically equivalent to Antiplex, but finished the purchase in 2021 of August for about $2 billion. So with that being said, we actually had a lot of process to actually get this. But Crunchyroll and Funimation have been around way longer than this and had a partnership before this. So them merging is kind of funny because of the fact of their cooperation in the years before this. So what do you think it means for them to merge? Does it actually mean a good thing, a bad thing, what?
Well, it depends how you look at it. Look at it from a good way, I guess, there'll be like some shows that might have benefited because there is actually some problems with Funimation with some certain shows. I guess for the one examples I did mention earlier for Mob Psycho, for the English cast, it was like for the English cast for Mob himself, they had a bit of a contract problem with Funimation. So that's why he didn't voice act for Mob Psycho Season 3. They had a different entirely voice actor because of the whole Funimation controversy with the contract. I forgot exactly what it was, but yes, I guess you could see it in a good way. And then for the bad way is also because I think back when you did have a Crunchyroll thingy, you did like get like digital rewards and stuff. And the thing is with anime now, you know, while you have stuff digitally, they own, like, you don't really own it. Like, they still kind of own it, right? Like, unless you buy, like, the physical copies, like DVDs, for example. Like, for example, we buy a whole DVD set of Dragon Ball Super or Z, right? Or Z Kai, whatever, right? those you can actually own and just watch on your own. But if you have watching it digitally and they don't have that service anymore, well, there's nothing you can really do about it. So that's just a downside from there as well.
True. It's interesting how Funimation came to be, because there were two former rivals. 2016, Crunchyroll and Funimation had a partnership which allowed certain titles from each platform to be available on the other. So that kind of what started the beginning of the partnership. So it already had this idea that they can work together established. And what I liked from the partnership at the time was access to titles that Funimation had and Crunchyroll had that they could share. And as over time, it actually grew to be a bigger partnership. But that partnership ended in 2018. So it's kind of weird how they stopped the partnership and then the merging happened. What are your thoughts about that?
I like how the partnership went.
Mm-hmm.
From my experience was from watching Crunchyroll around that time. I was pretty new to anime and stuff, so I really wasn't really paying attention to the whole partnership stuff. I just really wanted to watch anime.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll was also a new thing around the time as well. A fun fact about Crunchyroll is it used to be a pirating site for anime, because there are other shows right now, or sorry, not shows, but there are other websites right now you can just watch anime for free instead of just having a subscription. It's just funny how Crunchyroll originally used to be part of a pirating anime site where you can just watch anime for free. That's correct, right?
Yes. It used to be a very popular site for, say, titles that didn't have licensing for, but they made so much money from ads and monetization that they were actually able to buy anime exclusive to the website and just kept building that brand. So once they got legitimate, companies look at them differently and saw the large audience base they already had.
Right. And like I said before, it was much nicer than if you had it digitally, because you get rewards and stuff, but now they kind of just take that away from you since they discontinued with Funimation. That really sucks. But I mean, if you bought the physical copies, like a disc collection, whatever, they really can't take that away from you.
True. It also goes to show you that even if you have everything guaranteed from one company, a merger doesn't mean something else will keep up. What I mean by that is there's not going to be a full transparency from this company to the other company after the merge. There's always going to be some change that's going to affect the customer base from the former company. And one big area as such was the Funimation licensing for digital copies and certain shows, and the time to get shows back onto Crunchyroll and do the entire process of combining catalogs. That's really the big process that they're doing.
Yeah, that's just kind of unfortunate for some people. And another point I also said before, it really depends on the anime fan, right, themselves, how they view the situation. They would view as a good thing or view as a bad thing. It really depends on the viewer, honestly.
The thing with these two companies in particular, Funimation was the distributor for home video catalog. So not only was Funimation on as a paid subscription to watch it, it had a lot of box set releases, disc releases that made it profitable. So it had different properties like Dragon Ball to prolong it to longevity where they can buy titles. It's kind of interesting because Crunchyroll started with illegitimate, becoming legitimate. Funimation had one big property that propelled it to a size equivalent well, similar to Crunchyroll with Dragon Ball franchise. Because it was actually Dragon Ball franchise that established Funimation in the first place, especially in the West. That's how they got so much dubbing through Funimation than Crunchyroll. That's why Funimation was able to do both when they licensed the anime.
Yes, exactly. And again, there are some people that got a disadvantage from the new merge as well. What are your thoughts on that?
What do you mean new emergence?
Huh?
What do you mean by new emergence?
Now I'm talking about like when they back then when it started out as like a legitimate company, and then they partnered with Crunchyroll and Funimation. There are some voice actors that had contract problems. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's always going to be a weird hurdle in the dubbing department at Funimation, because when Funimation began in the early 2090s, it was first getting its feet wet. So in the early days, it still had a lot of significant problems, and they had to have a decade to overcome them. So the early processes of dubbing was kind of controversial in some aspects, to the fact that the staff was still very new to the licensing, to distributing, to the actual media aspect of the franchise they bought to license and all that stuff. Because these services that Funimation offered was to buy the property and have exclusive streaming rights to such property. Because Funimation also handled the distribution as well as the licensing. So they had a lot of hurdles to jump through, where Crunchyroll primarily stayed subbing because of the easier process. When you dub one property in one language to another language, there's a translation that has to be done. In order to do that, you spend a lot more time doing those episodes. And yes, Funimation has some subtitles in its catalog that you can just view at different times. But a lot of people, they exclusively try to get the dubbing in a way to market to the American audience in the West.
Well, that also kind of brings up my point earlier about when really all depends on how the viewer looks at it, because for some new anime fans now who are trying to get into the thing, they either to the show, right? They're watching. They either prefer to watch it English dub or sub. It's more cooler if they watch it. It may sound much cooler watching it on sub. The problem some people have view as subbing is a bad thing is because, well, they wouldn't understand Japanese, and the majority of the time you have to focus on the subtitles of what they're saying, rather than watching the whole action itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would. So it's interesting in how they merged to make a massive library in Crunchyroll. Because at the time, Sony bought Funimation. AT&T bought Auto Media, which was the parent company of Crunchyroll. And Sony had enough money to buy Auto Media from Sony. And it's interesting how they keeping Crunchyroll with a larger fan base than Funimation.
It also sucks for the most of the fans as well, who are also part of the Funimation and Crunchyroll, because not only that they lost all their digital purchases and all, but now they have to keep track of where they left off on their show, because it's most likely it's kind of unclear of your watch history being on Funimation will carry over to Crunchyroll. It's also likely a good idea to try and make a note of where you are in the series on the Funimation's end, so you can jump into the episode instead of just having to plan to catch up. You know what I mean?
So actually, Crunchyroll is already planning to the Quay system and the watch list history from one account to another account, so they're actually transferring people's accounts to do that. The only reason why they can't protect the digital copies is there's just not enough leeway to protect an older purchase from another company. They were actually doing a successful merge with people's watch history and which episodes they watch and which was actually in their watch list. So there might be, I don't know if it'll be exactly perfect for Funimation, exactly where you left off. It could be the last saved data that was on your account that they could transfer over, but they're all making a commitment to save watch history and different stuff like that to build up the audience base after the merge.
And yeah, you do have some very good points there. I agree.
Yeah, it's the only thing I've heard that's taken a little bit of time is getting all the episodes onto the catalog. Users' watch history was already done for the majority of the part, and if you had claims, you can actually follow it according to the Crunchyroll newsletter. So there's certain things you can request from admins specifically work with you to see that you can get restored on your personal server. But this also brings up a point: if it is the Funimation's anime library moved to Crunchyroll, it creates this almost one platform for anime streaming. Unified, one platform. What do you think about that?
About like the platform itself, or like what you're asking?
One platform that has both of the properties from Funimation and Crunchyroll under the Crunchyroll name for all people to enjoy, which is an even larger fan base. One giant streaming service just for this content.
And it's making a huge commitment if you're just merging with another big company that happens to be a company that's much smaller, but then over the years became much bigger because, from what I got correctly, Funimation was the one that partnered with Crunchyroll, correct?
Yes, they originally partnered in 2016 from 2018 partnership.
And so it's just back in the years when, Funimation would Crunchyroll, it made it just sound baffling just to like partner with a smaller company and let alone make a profit out of it. Yeah.
Well, they're not just making a profit out of it. They're actually streamlining users from Funimation to the Crunchyroll already established user space. The reason why Sony is specifically choosing Crunchyroll over Funimation is because the Crunchyroll has the largest fans to the platform. It makes no sense to keep Funimation up when it's basically one and the same company. Live streaming services are basically continuing other platforms and going for the streamline platform to stream their exclusive shows and TV and movies. It's not the only platform that's doing this. Other ones are also doing it, moving all the catalog like HBO Max and Paramount. And like these are big changes in the streaming as part of staying competitive and keeping the exclusiveness to your own platform instead of having multiple platforms which could screw the numbers on viewership.
You mentioned the other platforms. One mentions that I thought you would also mention would be Netflix or Disney Plus. Like, did they go through a similar phase as well?
So, Disney Plus is interesting in the fact that they bought stores. They had already had that property in store, Disney, Pixar, stuff like that, and Marvel. Now, with their 2/3 stake in Hulu, they're also transferring Hulu content to Disney Plus and Hulu and sharing. because of the fact that Hulu is owned 2/3 by Disney, they are the majority stockholder, meaning they are sharing their platforms together, but they can't combine them because there's still one other person holding out on that other ownership. Now, Netflix is interesting because of the fact it's still the number one streaming platform of any streaming variety in the world. It has the largest stakes in profit and the largest user base across the planet. So they're doing their own thing. They're making exclusive content as much as they can, and that's why Netflix is competing in the anime genre, because of the fact that they can basically license Netflix originals through other studios and just buying the content directly. They don't even have to produce it, they just have to buy it.
I mean, yeah, that's just how, like, even now in today's for the new TV series and stuff, it's just a lot to take in, and again, especially towards newer fans of anime who are just trying to get into it. Now they just have to deal with this tragedy where they were like super fans and have all this digital stuff, just to have them taken away by just, you know, just not having that partnership anymore. And that can also even hurt for even bigger companies too, like you just mentioned with Paramount Plus and like Hulu, right?
But Hulu, well, okay, Hulu has 300 and some titles on their anime catalog. There is some exclusive anime that Disney Plus is actually funding themselves. But it's going to be a big reach to say how much impact in the anime streaming that it can actually have, because of the fact of not every title can Disney get, just still the competition between Crunchyroll and Netflix right now. High Dive is in there, but they're lower on the totem pole because of profit. So it just depends. But as for the digital copies, that's just something that Crunchyroll can't really honor because of the fact that it's like saying, all right, I borrowed money, I paid for this item, I want to access it for life, as Funimation might have said that you had access to it. Well, at the time, this is Funimation. Now we have Crunchyroll. So the Funimation name is not going to have the same liberty as Crunchyroll. Though content might get transferred over, doesn't mean the same policies that Funimation have as Crunchyroll is going to be the same policy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the last back, depending on what happens. If the repercussions are more people from Funimation want the digital copies, and there's enough people to, you know, go to court to settle a settlement because of they see that they have lost access to money that was granted under a policy of another company, then they can do that. But that's the only legal recourse that people have to generate enough voice to speak out against this issue, because of how the system works. Companies will backtrack on a policy that might be from another merging company and say they won't no longer honor it. So there could be an attempt to do refunds if Crunchyroll wanted to do that, or just not discontinue it and tell people in advance, which they did, of why they're doing it. Because that's a lot of money to store for digital copies for existing buyers that pretty much should have already accessed that content by now.
Hmm. I mean, yes. Let's see. From that point of view, from there, it's just a question of like, how do you say it in English? It's just a point of really on the fans, how they thought or how they think about the situation, because if they were also smart, they would buy, not the digital copies, but like actual physical copies of this. So, because they really can't take that away from you. Like, you own that, like they can't really take that away from you. But I don't know. Some people, they just do or don't. It's also
okay,
hard.
So if Funimation, instead of merging, they went bankrupt, who's gonna say that, oh, we're bankrupt, we're not gonna longer have these digital copies that you borrow, and we're not gonna give you a download because then that can lead to more uploading on other websites for property that doesn't belong to you. Because when you buy a physical, let's just say you buy a physical copy, the physical copy in essence is you buying the merchandise and having a personal streaming permission to watch it. Because you can't play that DVD in public without getting a streaming permission and a permit to have it to a large audience.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That DVD is only limited to 15 people and under to actually view it at any given time. In any large audience base seeing a viewing, they'll only need certain permissions of copyright to be able to watch it. So the permission of copyright in a physical copy is the one that literally says, you bought this DVD, you can watch it at home, that is your permission. You do not have permission to dispute again what outside of the means of what you bought it. So you can't redistribute it to the masses. So you can't take a recording of it and then upload it somewhere else. That's copyright infringement, because you didn't have that permission to do that in the first place. The only person that has that permission is the licensing company like Funimation, which a lot of people through Funimation is a lot easier to get screening permission because of how Funimation was licensing for that show. So it was easier to get, say, if you had an anime club to show a screening, stuff like that.
That also brings a question to the table. Like, as an anime fan, like new or as a veteran who's watched anime for many years, even to the point when you watch Crunchyroll and like the Funimation with merge, like you as an anime fan, Nick, how would you feel about this situation?
Me as an anime fan, feeling about the situation with the digital copies?
Like both in general, like the digital copies and like this whole situation. Like, I assume you watched Crunchyroll around the time as
I watched Crunchyroll more than Funimation. I did at one point had I think 2 or 3 times with Funimation subscription. I think I tried it and didn't keep up with it because I didn't really watch all of its content. But I would say this: if you bought the digital content and that's your main focus after this merge, well, know that the fact money you spent at that time gave you access, and your access wasn't lifetime in the area of it being lifetime. Because if the company went bankrupt, you would have lost the access. You wouldn't be given that access. And because of the merge, then the company, to support lost revenue, giving you access, is basically making it available on the platform instead. So it's basically moving you over. I mean, it's kind of hard to say.
I understand, yeah.
because of the fact you bought a digital copy doesn't mean you have exclusive access at any given time. If the situation changed, maybe I would be mad. Maybe if there was no recourse of, oh, I should get a refund. Well, you bought the digital for whatever amount of time you had it, and if you didn't watch the digital that you paid for, then that's really no legal recourse you can require because of the fact you purchased it but didn't watch it. It's just like saying I rent a movie. It expires in 48 hours, but I never watched the movie. Guess what? I gotta pay for that movie again to rent it. So if you bought the digital copy and didn't watch it, and then now don't have the chance to watch it because you never got to watching it, it's kind of a win-lose situation.
I agree there. It's like a win or lose situation for both fans who are casual or just ones who've watched anime for a very long time, including myself. You know, it's really hard to say from there.
It's hard for you. Did you have digital copies?
Actually, I had some of them, but then there were ones that really did cherish, and I kind of speculated something like this was gonna happen. I at least bought a digital copy of like the My Hero movies, you know, so I can just watch those. Like I bought the physical copies of the My Hero Academia movies. So I may not have the show, but I have the movies at least, so that's cool enough.
True. Though sometimes people buy the digital copies for convenience. But a lot of times when you buy a digital copy, it's not necessarily going to be cheaper than the physical copy.
That was indeed true, yeah. I mean, it was just convenient at the time, and I don't think most people knew at the time, or no one knew this was going to happen, you know?
True. But if you see the trend of streaming as a whole, if the industry dramatically changed, like all these exclusive streaming, like Paramount coming to play, HBO Max, and all these different people trying to get all their rights that have access to and then put on one platform, following the Netflix version to do things, that it's going to be assumed that eventually, with all this competition and these platforms gathering all together to stay competitive, maybe my streaming service will lose that competitive edge and may be bought out.
Very true, yeah, that's pretty bad.
The same thing is happening in newspapers. Most newspapers can't keep up. It's just an old form of media outlet that is hard to negotiate and bring together for the community. So Funimation became the local newspaper that got bought up by a big newspaper conglomerate.
That also kind of same thing with Toys R Us, because of Amazon, eBay, like all those other online websites, like they can just more convenient just buying the toys or whatever they want off of the website, right?
Yeah.
Granted, it's not like part of like actually no, I'm sure they sold some like movies and shows for kids stuff, right?
They did.
Then
So
didn't just part of Paramount Plus, right?
Yes. Paramount owns Nickelodeon. So as a property as a whole, they put it on Paramount for people to access. They put all their content under a paywall, like Netflix. So it's interesting how streaming is becoming. Everyone is staying ahead by merging, buying other companies, taking stakes, and that's how the streaming is going to be is by these larger companies buying the smaller ones. Now, in this case, Sony bought Crunchyroll for a lot more than what they bought Funimation for from AT&T. Because AT&T didn't have to let it go. They just sold it to Sony because Sony wanted it in a good way. So this was Sony's mission, trying to get it done, and they achieved it. With the anime library moved to Crunchyroll, now we have the unified streaming platform, but now the pricing is unchanged, and the users with Funimation are encouraged to cancel their subscription. So, let me go back for a second. If you're a Funimation user, and you found out news that you had to cancel your subscription to go to Crunchyroll, how would you feel?
I would feel upset because, like, again, think about the digital stuff that I bought from Funimation, and like, I'm like, oh wait a minute, now I have to do Crunchyroll. Like, it's like a whole new format or like a new foreign thing to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so like, that's why again, you have to look at the perspective on how anime fans are just starting out anime, trying to watch it. It kind of just ruins their experience, you know, because like they're not familiar with it, you know.
True. Because of the fact that the CEO of Crunchyroll expressed excitement about the merger, he emphasized the value it brings to fans by combining subs and dubs, simulcast, the library, the music, movies, and manga, all in one subscription. Sony's music wall actually has benefited from this because of the fact that the Japan label and Sony music is actually available on Crunchyroll. Did you know that?
Oh no, I didn't know that actually.
There's a lot of titles, a lot of artists singing on Crunchyroll. So not only is the merge anime content being different, we also have rights from Sony putting stakes to make it original content. Like, they're putting music behind it, putting videos that people can watch on the actual platform as part of subscription, plus the store. Because when Crunchyroll bought Funimation, they had access to another store distribution, rightstuff.com. Funimation owned that company, and now they have a huge expansion in merchandising that Crunchyroll already had, but now it's even more. So the actual products that can be sold are more variety than what Crunchyroll store had, which I think is pretty a good thing in the scheme of things, because of the fact that we now have an opportunity to see how it plays out.
Right then.
So what are the things you want to see happening from this after the merge? Because April 2nd was the last day that the Funimation app and website was closed during the unification of the services.
What can I hope is, like, maybe they could try to refund some of the customers, maybe majority of them who lost their digital stuff, or not really refund them, just find a way to, like, you know, like, hey, we messed up, you know, we can give you this, or they will make it up to you, or they give something to try to make it up to them. And then, like, another thing is try to solve like the controversy with the dub sub contracts, like get that straightened out as well with like a professional team. That's what I hope to see what would happen for benefit wise, because again, I would like for, you know, for just anime casual watchers or just veteran watchers just to have, you know, a decent experience of just watching anime, especially for the future. You know, Because think about it, without the fans, there would be nothing. They would, the Crunchyroll, like, it would probably still be a pirating account thing to this day. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's mainly a bad thing because, like, pirating is obviously illegal. So, it's not right. Like, normally just support the app itself by just, simply doing the right thing and pay for it. Pay what you're watching for.
True, but if you really think of the bottom line, how this came, it's Sony that, to make the merge happen. Maybe Crunchyroll didn't want to offer the digital copies, and they wanted to cancel it. We have content offerings provided with extremely anime service. We appreciate understanding that we explore the extensive library catalog on Crunchyroll. So, but they already did give refunds to people when they cancel their subscriptions.
Alright, but I think they would probably need to maybe slowly do a bit more. I'm not sure how exactly. I'm not their CEO or something. Like, I don't know how their thought process is, or like how they would try to, how do you say it in English? Just like to try to refund or accommodate the customer or the person who did the subscription. You feel?
Yeah. Let's see.
That's just my take on it.
So the impact it uses is that the work is still unclear. Funimation collectors will lose access to certain digital copies that have been purchased on the merge on April 2nd. In many ways, the merge between Sony and Funimation is a boon for fans. It brings a lot of content available that the company didn't have before Funimation. However, significant issues is the customers who had digital properties set to lose them in the migration. Sony is saying it will make up to subscribers. Details are thin and the process has been less than smooth. So there's a commitment by Sony to reward the long-standing customer, but we don't know what that looks like.
Right.
So we can only speculate what that actually could translate to and actually deliver in the final resolution.
Yeah.
Overall, I think this is more of a positive than a negative, in the simple fact that there is more positive implications than negative.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree here.
Because now it warns, it's like, well, people don't have to choose between Funimation, High Dive, and Crunchyroll for the subscriptions. If someone whose majority really likes it, they can get a Crunchyroll subscription. If they feel very strong about it, then it in the landscape of things, it mitigates the risk of multiple subscriptions, and now you only have one subscription. So now you can enjoy the content that you like on both, and after they translate the 60,000 titles and watch hours from Funimation to Crunchyroll, you will have even more content to deliver and like.
Very true.
Merchandise is affected, music is affected. The entire brand outlook is different because now they have Sony backing them as a supporter and as a buyer. Sony did this move to get a really good niche in entertainment. Almost exclusively anime from Crunchyroll and Funimation together is a huge impact that other streaming services don't have as much. So if you really think about it in that way, the only really competition out there is Hulu, Netflix, and High Dive. but they don't really compare as much because they also have different content. What do you... Okay, so as we close this out, what do you hope to gain from Funimation merging with Crunchyroll? It's finally ended, and they're doing the process of translating it.
I just hope they kind of straighten out, and I just hope for like other anime companies or even like shows in general, you know, like Nickelodeon, Disney Plus, Hulu, like for future reference, just don't make the same mistake as Crunchyroll Funimation did, you know. That's just my hot take on it.
Okay. Well, my hot take, I don't know if I have one, but you have access to the argument. No longer is subs better than dubs and subs better than subs. They're the same. There is no defending now, because now you have that option to watch on either one on either on the same platform. So now you're both right. Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's completely fine.
So I'm just glad I end the Funimation's dub and the Crunchyroll sub argument, because now that can be put to bed. The one and the same. Sub and dub. Instead of sub versus dub. But yeah, that concludes this episode. And tell me, where can they usually find you at and all that stuff, Chemi?
I really don't have any social media, but you guys want to talk in Discord, you know, feel free. I'm willing to talk about anime, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. Yeah, that's kind of my end.
Alright guys, well this concludes the episode of Funimation merging with Crunchyroll. And thank you for Chemi for being here. You gave good insight. And definitely a supporter of the digital copies more than I thought you would be.
I mean, again, that's just preference, man. I just want to watch some anime, honestly. Oh.
True, but you kind of went on a tangent. But anyway, as Chemi continues to be a normie fan, and he continues to undertake more up mainstream anime, let's applaud him for his journey to doing just a little bit more than everyone else. Alright guys. Bye guys. See you later.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.